Everybody, give a warm welcome to our very first keynote speaker, Michelle Wong. Woo!
Thank you. Hi, Asian Hustle Network. How is everybody? It's been a good morning so far. Got to hear from Brian. There was a game show that I didn't get to take a part of, but it's all good. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm absolutely honored to be a part of this incredible event. I want to start off by saying and confessing something. I'm hella nervous today. And I have done this many times. I've told my story. I've talked about the work that we do at Sprinkles. And I was trying to figure out what is it that makes this different. And I realized this is my first time speaking to a room that looks like this. To be with my community, to be with my peers. I mean, this is really, really special. This is a room full of entrepreneurs, business leaders, politicians, creatives, and to share the space with you today, I am very honored. So thank you to Brian and Maggie for having me. And I think in the spirit of how special and unique this time is, to really recognize that we're truly breathing rare air today, like in this room right now. So thank you for being present, and I hope you enjoy my story. I talked to Brian about this. I was like, what are we going to talk about? He's like, it's about the hustle, and what have you been doing? So I really hope that you see a little bit of yourself in my story. And let's see how this goes. So I basically can't talk about my journey or myself without talking about my greatest influence, and that really comes from my family, and most importantly, the matriarch in our family, which was my grandmother. So she had immigrated to the U.S. when she was around 18 years old. Basically, my grandmother, she was the heartbeat of our family. She emigrated to the U.S. from Hong Kong when she was 18. She was an actress in Hong Kong. She signed with the famous Shaw Brothers studio. And when she moved to the U.S., she met my grandfather. She said she wanted to marry him because he was in an army uniform. I was like, love that. She then raised 4 children. My family had a Chinese restaurant called House of Yi. And they also ran a stationery store in LA's Chinatown. And I'm pretty sure for a good chunk of like 20, 30 years, they printed every red and gold Chinese wedding invitation for the city of LA. And she did this incredible thing, built a life, built a family in Los Angeles. And it was in her 50s. And I remember this vaguely, the early conversations, but she would continue to talk about it. In her 50s, she said, you know what, guys? I did my job. I did what I wanted to do. But I want to go back to being an actor. I'm going to go back into the business. And we were kind of like, okay, that sounds great. You do you, Grandma. And she got an agent. She was auditioning, and she went to work. She had a couple of different interviews with press and media, and she would always talk about her dream. Her dream was to be an actress. Her dream was to make it in Hollywood. And I think it's such a unique perspective, particularly someone as an immigrant coming to this country. A lot of times we're so focused on survival, on making ends meet or fitting in. And she really held on to the thing that really fulfilled her. And she went after it. And so I have to brag on her a little bit because she's pretty amazing. And there was a lot of life lessons that she had taught me in her pursuit of making herself really happy. So here she is. These are done later in life. But there she is in front of her trailer because she was cast as Harry's mom in Dumb and Dumber 2, all of her scenes opposite Jim Carrey. She was known for being a really wonderful comedian. I took that photo of her with Adam Sandler. She was in his film, That's My Boy. She was sent to live in Cape Cod for a month to shoot that movie. And I went to visit her on set because I wanted to hang out too. I was like, hey, I'll come hang out on set with you. But there's a story that I like to tap into for myself a lot, and I thought that I would share with you today. Actually, it was way before this. You may have seen, I think everybody's seen this movie. It's called Enemy of the State with Will Smith and Gene Hackman, and it's this great, it's a great action movie. So there's a moment in the film when Will realizes that he's being wiretapped or something. So he breaks into a hotel room and starts taking off his clothes and taking off the wires just so he can't be found. So in the scene, my grandmother's in this hotel room that he breaks into, and the director, Tony Scott, says to her, okay, so I need you to look scared, I need you to scream, and you're very upset by this. And my grandmother, she came home and she tells us this story. She was like, I told the director, this man, Will Smith, is coming into my room and taking off his clothes. She's like, I'm cheering. And so they let her do the take the way she wanted to do it. And she's like clapping, and she's getting her purse from her her TV husband. She's like, fighty, fighty, fighty. And she's getting dollar bills to throw at Will Smith. And I'm just like, it made the cut. It was in the film. It was also included in one of the official trailers for the movie. And I think about this moment, one, because it's like so endearing and she's hilarious and so smart and quick on her feet. But for me, it was such a turning point. It's something that I tap into all the time. Not only was she going after what she wanted to do with her life and pursuing what really made her happy, but when she was in it, she took full advantage of it. She took full advantage of her voice. She had a point of view and a perspective, and she let that be known. She wasn't intimidated being on set with Tony Scott and Will Smith, and she said, no, this is how I want to approach it. And there's so many times that I find, even in my career today, where I'm not sure if I should say something, or if everyone thinks one way and I think the other, am I the one that's wrong? But to be able to trust your instincts in the work that you love to do can really change things for you. And I think that's when she really started to be seen as this wonderful comedic actress. So she really infused this sort of thought process into all of us, but particularly the women in our family. And, I came from home, so it's really interesting. This whole storytelling thing I really enjoy, because I think the narrative that we're often shown when it comes to growing up Asian is this idea that we all have tiger parents, and we had to take violin lessons, and we were pushed into careers in law or medicine. That's not the case for everyone, and it certainly wasn't the case for me. I grew up with artists and actors and singers and dancers, and we were a very mushy, touchy-feely group of people. And but what sort of tied that all together was this thought that really, if you go after the things that really fulfill you, the rest will come. A lot of this is trusting the process. A lot of this is being okay with the uncomfortable things that happen, and also being okay with the surprises and unexpected challenges on the road. So I didn't want to turn this into like Michelle's family slideshow, but I've got some really good stuff. So we're going to do a couple more, because there's a lot of firsts in my family as well. So this is 80s glory. So this is my auntie. She was the first Asian LA Rams cheerleader. Yes. Annie was also the first LA Laker girl, Asian LA Laker girl, during the Paula Abdul era. So this is like truly iconic stuff. And but her thing, she was a dancer, and she actually was cast in the company of the prestigious dance company Alvin Ailey in New York. And she was terrified. She had never left LA, had this huge opportunity. And I remember so clearly my grandmother saying, you have to go. You have to go. This is what you want to do. Take the risk, jump forward, and it'll happen for you. And she's still dancing, choreographing today. Really, really incredible person. And then lastly, okay, so I think there's some people in the crowd that know me. And if you know me, you know a little bit about my sass or my attitude that comes out once in a while. All I do is point to these pictures. So this is my mom. This is Emma. She's a badass. And I bring her up because she had a very unique experience growing up in LA, growing up in Crenshaw, California in the 60s and 70s. And she had faced a lot of adversity, a lot of discrimination, a lot of racism in her life. And it really shaped her worldview. Her purpose has really been around activism, and to this day is a very proud supporter of causes and people who are being treated unfairly and unjustly. And I'm really happy, really, really glad that that is a value that she has brought down to all of us. So last bit of like family theater. is me. So as soon as I was born, my grandma was like, let's get this kid an agent. So when I bring this up because these are the steps. This was like the first step into whoever I'm becoming as I'm still evolving as a human. But I worked as an actor as well throughout my childhood and into my 20s. And I actually thought this is what I was going to do with my life. I went to UC Irvine. I know there's a couple of anteaters in here as well. And I majored in drama, which is like, who does that at UCI? But anyway, I did that. And but I ended up leaving the business because it was a very different time. And I had very few opportunities. It was really interesting hearing Sam talk about his experiences. So many things that are the same and so many things that have changed. But I found that the opportunities that were there were so narrow. I had never gone to an audition where they didn't immediately ask me to speak with an accent. The feedback that I received was either that I looked too Asian or I didn't look Asian enough. And what frustrated me the most was that I couldn't represent myself or as an Asian person, as an Asian woman in media in an authentic way. It was always done through the lens and through the gaze of someone that was not a part of our culture. It was a very frustrating thing. This was when I was in college. I lost this sort of creative piece of my soul. It was a very hard time. You're in your 20s. You don't know what you're doing with your life. That was very much me. I was like very conflicted back then. So one thing that I haven't shared with you yet in all of this is there are all of these things. I was obsessed with cooking and food. And so I was at this critical point in my life where I didn't know what I was going to do, but I thought about my grandma, and I thought about going after the things that make me happy and wherever that will take me. So I was very fortunate enough to study at Le Cordon Bleu in London, and I graduated with my grand diplôme in French cuisine and patisserie. From there, I worked, this picture makes me laugh. I worked as a pastry chef for a year at the Grosvenor House Hotel in London, and it was a fascinating time. I did that for a year, and what I learned in that year was, as much as I love this business, I am not built to be a chef. I was like, you know what? These 14-hour days working on your feet and cooking are amazing, but I am tired. And my visa ran out. So it was time to go home. My mom was like, are you done finding yourself yet? Like, what are you going to do now? And I wasn't. I still didn't know what I was going to do. My dad had suggested that I try and get into advertising. He was like, look, it's creative, and you get to sit down. You'll be in an office. Those two things, maybe something will hit for you. So I managed to get myself an internship and started my career in advertising at Leo Burnett in Chicago. And I absolutely fell in love with this business. This business was this exchange of ideas, the passion behind it. It was very much like being in a kitchen, working with creatives that were so good at their craft, were very passionate about their ideals, and absolutely batshit crazy. And I felt comfortable in that space, but there was a real big difference. As much as I love this business, that I built an 18-year-long career in, by the way, I absolutely love advertising. But the hardest part was finding my way in that space. Completely white male dominated. Most of my career, I was the only woman in the room, the only person of color, the only Asian person in the building. And that is a very hard thing to push through. And you want to make change. When you start seeing, I used to think like the harder I worked, the better I would do. I'm going to outwork everybody. I'm going to stay later. I'm going to do the weekends. I'm going to sign up for extra projects. And it didn't help because I was constantly faced with racial bias, with sexual bias, and it was very frustrating to watch my peers get promoted, get raises, find out that they were earning more than me. This industry is so powerful in how it can change behavior in the world, and I wanted to be a part of it, but it had to be different. I worked my way up in my career, moved around, did a bunch of things. My last role in advertising, I was part of the managing partner team at an agency called Daily in West Hollywood. We bought our agency back from our holding company, and we ran it as an independent for 4 years. in that time, this was the first time in my entire career where I had a real voice, where I had actual power to make decisions that would shape and change our business. And what that meant was changing our hiring practices, bringing in different points of view and people from different backgrounds. I mean, it didn't matter if you went to this school or that school. I wanted to know, were you passionate about this? Did you care? Do you have the drive? We made sure that all of our leaders and our managers were a diverse set of people because we knew that it would have a trickle-down effect, that would bring in different people, different voices. And it worked. In those 4 years, the agency grew. We were winning new business. We were winning awards. It is good business to include diversity, equity, and inclusion in your business model. And then one day, we got a call that someone wanted to merge and buy our agency. And I wasn't ready. I absolutely did not want to do this. I felt that I had worked my entire life to get to this point where I could create change in a business that I loved, in a field that I wanted to change for the better. But our board met, and there was a vote, and the vote went to move on. And I decided that I didn't want to be a part of this moving forward. I was going to start fresh. First time in a really long time, I was going to take a break, and I was going to do what I needed to do. That was in December of 2019. So 2020 started, and like all of us, we thought, this is our year. I am going to do all these amazing things, and I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to go on vacation. No, nothing happened, obviously. It was very hard for so many people in a very devastating time. I found myself in March of 2020 without a job, without health insurance, and really without a plan. And I think what everyone in this room can recognize is that moment when you're like, okay, we got to change this. We got to figure this out. So I'm not an entrepreneur per se. I haven't started a business. I've been in the corporate space for most of my career. But I feel that I have very much an entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's what makes us really different, everyone in this room. We are all about finding another way. When someone says that or doesn't even see an opportunity, we find a way to make it happen. So, I mean, talk about Asian hustle. 2020 was the year of Michelle's hustle. I was calling every single person I knew. I set up my consulting business. I was the principal of a business of one. I tried to get on every digital, panel that I could get as much visibility. After a couple months, I got a client, and I got another client, and another client, and I was like, okay, this could be a thing. And then I got a call from Sprinkles, and they said, you know what, we need someone to help out for a few months. Are you available? And it all worked out. And after 3 weeks, I sat in my CEO's office, and he said, so do you want to just stay on? Do you want to stay on forever? Like, do you want to be the CMO of Sprinkles? And it literally took everything in my body not to just say yes on the spot. I was like, you realize this is my dream job. I used to be a pastry chef. I worked in advertising marketing, and now I get to do these things all together at once. But I kept my chill, and I was like, I'll think about it. But really, the reason why I wanted to think about it was because of where I came from. What I have seen in terms of what happens when you open doors for other people. What happens when you bring people up with you? What happens when you create pathways for new ideas? And I needed to be in a place where I could still do that. And incredibly, Sprinkles shares a lot of the same values that I share. And they're very much about this mission. And I was going to be in a position, again, where I could make choices and decisions that affect the business, that affect our brand culture, and that drive us forward. So I said yes. We put a ring on it. And I've been at Sprinkles for 2 years. And one of the first thing that I wanted to do there was to bring in a different set of voices to the brand. Sprinkles is known for our amazing red velvet. Our top 5 flavors are dark chocolate, vanilla, all the obvious ones, right? There's so much more. I believe that storytelling has to come from a place of authenticity and truth. And what better way, what better vehicle to tell that story than with food? And so we created this Chef Series campaign, and my goal was to bring in women of color. I wanted different cultural representation in food storytelling. I wanted queer representation. We needed to broaden our storytelling at the brand. So I bring up this cupcake because this was truly a catalyst. Something really special happened. This is Claudette Zepeda. She's a chef that was on Top Chef. She was a winner on Netflix's Iron Chef. She's Iron Chef Mexico's Iron Chef judge. She's an incredible human being. And she created this flavor based on a Mexican candy called Gloria. And it's really like a goat's milk caramel and pecans. And we translated that into a cupcake. But there was a story behind it. And it was steeped in her upbringing as a Mexican American growing up in California. And so we launched this and went out, and something really unexpected happened. We were getting text messages, phone calls, emails, DMs, not only from our guests, but from our internal teams as well. And what they told us was they said, I never thought that I would see a part of my culture, a part of my life, represented in a brand like Sprinkles. Verbatim, these are the things that we're hearing. And it just had a deeper meaning. It had a deeper connection to the people that knew about it. Now, if you didn't, I had never had a Gloria. I didn't even know about this candy before I met Claudette. At the end of the day, I mean, you're going to want to eat that cupcake. It's like caramel and pecans. It's like amazing. So it really kind of tapped into this notion that we could play in this food storytelling space, create something absolutely decadent and delicious, but it has meaning. It has a heart behind it. There's something behind it that makes you care a little bit more. I recently was going through some data, and we learned that in 2022, so we have like 3 to 5 new cupcake flavors every month. This was the #1 selling cupcake of all of 2022. And I was like, okay, we're onto something. We're doing this. We're going to keep moving forward. And so I started a passion project of mine. In January of this year, we launched a Lunar New Year cupcake. Now, I'm the person that every January Googles Lunar New Year brand partnerships because I want to know who's doing what, who's talking to me as a consumer, what brand cares about me that I'm spending my money with. And I was so happy that, again, my team was like, do it, let's go, let's make this happen. And it had to be real. Like, right, food is so central to the holiday, sweets central to the holiday. I wanted a red for good luck. I wanted the almonds for good luck. Everything had to be done in #8s. We only brought in creatives that are Asian descent to build this work because it had to come from a real place. And really, really proud of this. We partnered with Gold House to help amplify this message. They brought in their creatives teams to really make this sing. And we had a repeat of what happened with Claudette's Mexican candy cupcake. We were hearing from the community, our community, saying, I see myself here. I have something I can share with people about myself and my culture, and this feels real and authentic. And this couldn't be more auspicious or more poetic in my mind. So we have a ranking. We rank our flavors to see how performance goes. And this cupcake, for the 2 weeks that it was running, it only ran for 2 weeks, but it ranked in the #8 spot. It was the 8th best-selling cupcake in the country during those 2 weeks, which is a huge, huge feat. And we didn't stop there. We also, and if you're around later today, this is real. This is like not a mirage. This is actually happening. We partnered with Sarah Wynn of Wynn Coffee Supply. And this cupcake actually had been in sort of Sprinkles R&D lineup for a while. And we brought it to life when we found a partner, because I was like, we can't call it a Vietnamese coffee cupcake if it doesn't have Vietnamese coffee in it. And so in comes Sarah, wonderful product. Just to romance this a little bit, this is like Wynn Coffee cake. It has a condensed milk buttercream core, like genius, and a coffee frosting. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're getting huge feedback. It's available now. If you're near Sprinkles, please go out and buy one. But you can also have one today. We're bringing a bunch in. But these are the things that that get me excited. And these are the things that I believe create change. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I have to sell cupcakes. I'm in the C-suite. I got a business to run, and I have a business to grow. But that doesn't mean that we have to alienate our passions. Doesn't mean we can't bring in and merge the things that grow business. Diversity, equity, and inclusion drives business. And I've proven that it also sells cupcakes. So what I want everyone to feel after this winding, crazy road, is in my reflection in all of this. I thought I was going to be an actor, didn't know what I was going to do, went to culinary school, thought I was going to be a chef, couldn't handle it. Then I got into advertising and ended up here on the brand side. But when I look at that, I can see the red thread. I can see what has connected all those things throughout my life and throughout those ups and downs. And that was the passion to be creative, that somehow this being in the world of food has followed me, or I've pursued it, and those two have met together. And it's been an iterative process. I think that I didn't see it then, and now I believe, okay, whatever I'm facing now is just getting me ready for the next thing. And I know all of you are in different stages of that. You're either in the middle of selling something, just closed a deal, on the verge of growing, or starting something new. And we're all in a different place of uncertainty. But I hope that you have faith in yourselves, in your knowledge and your abilities, and what you want, even if you can't see what it is, and know that there's so much good on the other side. And so I cannot wait to see where that takes you all. And I just want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.